This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
In our continued interview series of the special election congressional candidates, one of the top tiers, possibly at the very pinnacle in that top four realm that everybody is coveting, is Tara Sweeney. And Tara Sweeney has the resume and the intellect and the academics and the endorsements swooping in. No doubt we'll get into some of the details and minutia like finances, and I'm sure she wants you all to donate, but I think she's coming in with a pool of money as well. We'll get into that. She joins us. Tara, it's a pleasure to have you. Long time no chat. How are you on the campaign trail? A new trail for you to walk on, because I don't recall you running for anything in the past. You're not a politician, as they say.
Well, it is great to get out and to meet Alaskans. I apologize. I have a little bit of a bug in my throat, but we'll work through it.
Happy to have you with us. So you are running for the Don Young, as I call it, seat, our sole congressional seat, and you have inspiration. You have people that have asked you to run, and you've talked about this publicly, that you have a belief that you can make a difference. Tell me about Tara Sweeney as a little girl and where you grew up and where you attended school, and kind of some of the fun facts so people get to know you a little bit better. And then we'll fast forward to your momentum and what's happening in the race today.
Sure, thank you. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you this morning, Tom. For those that don't know me, I'm from rural Alaska, and my family in some capacity has always been called to service. My mother served in the legislature many, many years ago, and I grew up in the communities of Norvik and Wainwright, Utqagvik, Bethel, and Unalakleet. And I loved growing up in rural Alaska. It really helped kind of shape my perspective on the different challenges that Alaskans face. And it also made me extremely resourceful. You wanted to know some fun facts about me. You know, I absolutely love fishing. I played rugby in college. So hard work and just true grit are nothing new to me. And one of my proudest accomplishments was winning the leg wrestling competition in Kotzebue during their 4th of July games.
I love it. I'm smiling because you really are Alaskan. Anybody listening that, and I'm not, of course, newbies to Alaska, I hope you're smiling too, but to hear of a young lady, you're still young enough, I can say that, where you've risen up the ranks and had fun in those competitions and the cultural aspects of Alaska. I mean, that's what makes us Alaskans through and through. Whether you're white like me or you're indigenous, we all have that connection. And, you know, the only thing that made me cringe, I'm going to make you laugh here, is when you said long ago, like a Star Wars beginning, my mom served in office. Don't say it like that, because I loved your mother, and I was a legislative aide to Terry Martin for years when she was there. And Representative McLean was awesome. She was brilliant. She was thoughtful. Don't say many years ago, because you're dating me. Then it sounds like I'm old, but I'm teasing you. But no, she was amazing. And your dad, a teacher. I mean, you have family that have given back, on your hubby as well. He's an all-star. Everybody loves him. And he's been in the policymaking circles and in the strategic consulting circles for years, and for the right team, I should say, because I know who he's helped and I've supported the same people. And so, and then you have kiddos. So one thing I like about you is your intellect. Also, your communication skills, and you're gifted to that end. Also, you are thoughtful, you are kind, and boy, do we need that. Yeah, well, you're tough, and I'm not going to mess with you in a debate or in a leg wrestling fight. But I mean, you're tough in a thoughtful way, which matters. But also, Cornell, academics, credentials. My gosh, Assistant Secretary of the Interior, and then the cat's meow. You're an Alaska Native, you're Indigenous, and you're female. The latter 2 points, do you think, not in and of themselves, but as cream on the pie, or whatever you want to say, icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
People are like cream on the pie. Don't you think that helps? And I don't mean helps in a vote, but helps in defining you as someone that's a little bit different than we've had a lot of males in office for so many years, and maybe it's time for a little step up with a female. I do. I mean, I feel that way. That's why I'm asking the question. It's not a baited question. It's how I feel.
Yeah, I do think it sets me apart. And one thing that I've always said to my children is no one else gets to define you. Your actions and the way that you interact with people, you define. You get to define who you are. And, I've really worked my entire life to define myself, and by the issues within which I engage, the people that I surround myself with, and really I would say a desire to serve. And Tom, one thing that I wanted to share also about my background that is really near and dear to my heart, and a sort of North Star, is my great-grandfather created the Inupiaq alphabet, and it's called the Achagat.
Oh, wow.
And he did that, which was an amazing accomplishment. And what it did was it transformed our history from an oral history and started transitioning it into a written history. And that's important because it helps us as Inupiaq people, document our thousands of years of history. But what was so cool to me as I was growing up and learning was, in addition to that, he translated the New Testament from English into Inupiaq as twofold, a way to teach the people on the North Slope how to read and write the language, but also to preach the gospel. And to me, that really is a servant's heart.
Absolutely. I did not know that about your gramps. And you know what? That's indelible, because the preservation of languages, I am one, if you want to talk about someone that's into history and museums and preservation of languages and respect and celebration of such, it's me. And I think that you gave me goosebumps, because I think it's very important. And you know what? I know you're not saying that for a vote. You're saying that because it's history and it's information. Folks, if you don't want to vote in the election, or don't vote for Tara, you don't have to. But if that is something that brings an affinity to you, it's something that is in her makeup, and that she's obviously proud of it. I look at your background. I mean, under Frank Murkowski, back when I was a state representative, you were, I remember, the special assistants in rural affairs and education, and you helped. I mean, fast forward, Dan Sullivan, you were a co-chair for his campaign in 2014, and really, people may not understand. I mean, if you want to look at the Alaska Native Corporation playing field, the Arctic Slope Regional Corporation, ASRC, is huge, and if not the biggest. And with the subsidiaries, I mean, you have held lots of positions there, Executive Vice President of External Affairs and other such, advocating for things like opening the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and the fact that you were involved with the Inuit Circumpolar Council, Arctic Council, for economics and looking at ecosystems. Oh, I'm looking through your resume. I mean, even with the Alaska Federation of Natives, where you served as a co-chair, do you think those things are kind of a mosaic of what makes you a worthy candidate and congresswoman?
Absolutely. And, I believe that I represent the fabric of Alaska. My professional experiences, they've led me really to this point in time to stand before Alaska voters. And using those experiences, I've learned how to navigate the bureaucracy to deliver results. Going back to my time in the Trump administration, serving as Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs, I took every possible moment to understand the mechanics of the bureaucracy on the executive within the executive branch.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's so inextricably linked to the position you're applying for. Tara Sweeney wants to be voted into office so she can help be an emissary, an ambassador for us at the federal level where she just served under President Trump. So we're going to come back with her. We're going to get into some of the details of what she plans to do as the next Congresswoman, the first Congresswoman, actually, female in that seat, and some more of her credentials that might make you have an affinity even more to her. So stay with us. We're talking with Tara Sweeney, congressional candidate, on the Tom Anderson Show.
This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
We return with Tara Sweeney, congressional candidate, and her latest claim to fame, 13th Assistant Secretary of the Interior for Indian Affairs. And if you go to Wikipedia, you can read her long resume. And Tara, I see a photo with you and Kevin and family, and it states Tara Sweeney being sworn in for her new role at the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And I see a Bible there. What were you sworn in on?
Oh, I love that Bible. It's my aunt's Bible, and it was the New Testament that my great grandfather had translated. She carried it all the way from Alaska so that we could share that moment with him and together.
I look at when my father first came to Alaska as a state, then it was state police. He was stationed at Point Barrow and way back long before you and I were born, in the area where you grew up. And he's talked about how it's blossomed and it's growing, and it's a lot different now than back in the early 60s when he was there. And he also references that back then in the 60s and 70s, Arctic infrastructure was somewhat on the minds of policymakers, but nowhere near as much as now. And I don't mean like is the ice melting or climate change, which is relevant in terms of, is there ice or not? That's relevant just structurally. But deep water ports and the military's presence there and the Coast Guard and transportation, whether for tourism or for shipping. And then how China and Russia behaves. Many of us look at them with a raised eyebrow, or worse, certainly with Ukraine. But, because, they have a pesky way of saying we own this or we're taking over. China builds islands in the South China Sea. So when you come on to the campaign dais and you look with respect, I know you're a nice, kind person, at your other colleagues, even if you don't think they're the right choice, you think you are. I'm sure you want to, demarcate, delineate, try to compare and contrast. Do you think that's an elephant in the room in the negative context for them? And I'm not picking on any one person of your 47 challengers, but do you think that you have absolute experience and history in the Arctic infrastructure and policy world above everybody else? Because it seems like you do, at least looking at your resume.
Well, absolutely. I served as the international chair for the Arctic Economic Council. And when that Economic Council was established, the U.S. was the first sitting formal chair of that organization. And I had to stand up an international organization with all of the other Arctic nations, and create a business entity that provided that business perspective into the policy discussions taking place at the Arctic Council. And during that time, I had the opportunity to travel throughout the circumpolar Arctic, meeting with business leaders and policymakers about the different approaches to economic growth in the Arctic region. And Alaska, as an Arctic state, is in a critical position for the United States in terms of national security, with respect to our strategic location and the abundance of natural resources that we have in our state, and we absolutely need to unleash our domestic energy production. We need to be looking at how we can provide the resources for critical minerals that the United States needs in to protect our national security. And the Arctic and Alaska and the circumpolar Arctic play a critical role in our overall national security.
When you mention critical minerals like rare earth elements and all those 17, 18, I can't remember how many there are now, but they're hard to pronounce. Look it up, everybody, and you'll say, holy schmoly, I can't pronounce any of them. Erbium, disporicium, I mean, they're tough. But if you look up China, everyone, you're talking almost 40% of the world's rare earth deposits are in China. Part of the reason is because we've had a stranglehold with democratic administrations preventing the licensure and the administrative process to go forward. And when we look at that suppression of rare earth mining, twofold question, will you try to champion seeing more of that at a national level, whether in Alaska or other places? I mean, you have to have the mineral, so it might be in another state, right, that you mine it if we don't have the mineral here. Will you champion that? And then there's a good likelihood that Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida will run for president. I like him. I'd support him in a second. And let's say he's the front runner and let's say he's the chosen for the Republican side and he wins. Could you work with him? My presumption is you could, and he has a similar composure and intellect like you.
Thank you for the questions. I'm a strong proponent of improving and strengthening our national security and unleashing our domestic energy potential, whether that's in Alaska or across the country.
Sure.
And with respect to whomever sits in 1600 Pennsylvania, my job as an Alaskan representative would be to build bridges. We're a very divided country right now, and the leadership style that I have found to be very effective is, even if you disagree, having the capability of having a conversation and bringing people together to tackle those tough issues. You may disagree at the end of the conversation, but at least you understand fully the perspective of the other side. I'm not interested in legislating through sound bites. I don't get distracted by shiny things, and I certainly won't quit on Alaska. I am in it for the job and not the title, Tom.
One of the things I heard on the Nick Begich front, who's one of the front runners, as you are, is that, hey, okay, the guy has a foreign IT company, and he dabbled in some Republican politics, and I think he was on the MTA board. There's a few things, but some I've heard say his resume is not remarkable, and compared to you, it's an embarrassment. Not my word. Somebody else said, have you looked at Tara's resume and his? It's a joke comparatively. I'm not going to ask you to comment on that disparagement of your opponent, but I will say this: experience should matter, and the fact that you're going to be an ambassador and you're going to be someone that can work on both sides but representing the banner of the Republicans, those are things that I think people will look for. Is that what you're hearing? I mean, are you hearing people saying, hey, get that Confederate flag up and let's go Southern on America? Or are you hearing people say, hey, can you be intellectual and forthright in representing us but thoughtful to everybody as well as our representative? I assume you're hearing the latter from the people that are contemplating voting for you.
And that would be correct. There's fatigue in Alaska and across the nation with how divided our country is. Just for your listeners, I'm a Ted Stevens and Don Young Republican. So I want to meet Alaskans where they're at. I want to bring together those diverse groups and work on innovative solutions to Alaskan issues.
Sure.
And make no mistake, if that doesn't work, I also know how to fight. I know Don Young used to carry a pack a knife around, but I've also got ulus.
And Stephen said the whole can. By the way, hey, high five to you. You were chairwoman of Dan Sullivan for U.S. Senate, and then you didn't run against him the next year. So good for you. I like that. I like that loyalty. So as we move forward, how can people connect? Because we're out of time now. We'll get you back on the campaign trail one more time, hopefully. But Tara Sweeney's her name. She's running for Congress. You heard her background and credentials. We'll make a YouTube video of this. Shoot me some photos so we can add those to the YouTube. You can go to Tom Anderson Show, and hopefully she'll share it on her cycles. But I assume Facebook page and website, and they can donate to you. They can get a hold of your team to learn more. The standard platforms, correct?
Yes, and the handles are at Tara for Alaska, and my website is taraforalaska.com.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And now with Elon Musk owning Twitter, there'll probably be more access to you and people can comment. So Tara Sweeney, good luck. I'm a friend and I'm appreciative of the fact you're running, and the courage to do that is profound, and Godspeed. And hopefully we'll get you back one more time before the election.
Yep, great. Thank you, Tom.
Awesome. Thank you, Tara Sweeney, running for Congress. Folks, enjoy your Tuesday. God bless.